Hi everyone, in this video I would like to explain how you can debug the Matomo Tag Manager API. I would like for this to thank Altamash from the Matomo team, so as Ronan Hello, who helped me to troubleshoot my issue and give me as well these tips about how to debug the Matomo Tag Manager API. So first of all, what are we talking about here? So what I refer to the Matomo Tag Manager API is what you can find over here, so under API, and here down below you get Matomo Tag Manager. And as you can see here, the issue is that there are very few examples available. So to say that if you want to execute one of those requests, you need to know what are the expected value which should be there. The problem will come, so they are almost easy to use except for the tag, because for the tag, if you want to add a tag, first you need to have a trigger, and in order to add a trigger you need to have the ID of the trigger, which means that you need to perform multiple requests in order to have it. And as you can see over here, update the container tag, for example, this request is kind of one of the most complex, expecting a lot of parameters, including as well some array, which means that compared to the other which are kind of straightforward, I mean those two are kind of the most complex. In my case, I was trying to use the add container tag and I wasn't successful until Ronan and Altamash helped me. So first of all, let's start with let's say the debug part. In fact, when you are using Matomo Tag Manager, so typically here, let's take this one. So we take this one, and in fact everything is using the API, so in fact you can know exactly what are the changes which are made. So now we are going to enter within a container and we are going to update a given tag, and we are going to see the request so that it can help us. As it's a demo, of course, I just clicked on it, it's not working as expected, so I'm just going to refresh my page in order to, okay, so I'm there. So let's imagine that you would like to create a tag. So you will go over here, you will create a tag. So for example, Matomo Analytics, you choose a dummy tag, you associate its trigger to it, like I'm doing right now. So let's go for a page view. Page view, okay. And now, just before clicking on create new trigger, you just do an inspect, and then you look at the network, okay. And as you look at the network, if you click over here, okay, you're gonna get the request which is sent with, let's say, the different value that you may expect to view. So you can just click and copy the value and copy the URL, and you can also just go over here and extend this post request. And within this post request, as you will see over here, I'm kind of super lucky because there's no ID trigger, which is kind of weird. Okay, can get container trigger. So this one is get container trigger. This one is a get container trigger. Okay, anyway, let's go over here, and if I paste it, I should get normally what I call the trigger ID. So here in my case, I'm not ID trigger equal nothing, which is kind of weird. Okay, response requests. Okay, so here strangely I didn't get an ID yet, maybe because I wasn't creating it. So no worries. What we because I didn't create the tag, so maybe there wasn't, I mean something was expected. No, okay, so I'm gonna click here back, okay, loading the data, and here did I get the trigger ID, the value need, okay, so I see why it's because I didn't provided the Matomo configuration. So I provide now the Matomo configuration, I create the new variable. In the meantime, I guess it's gonna add a variable with what we want inside. So okay, all good. And now I guess now it makes sense to have the trigger ID if I do this. Okay, so perfect here. I'm getting, I hope, copy URL and okay. And so ID tag equal nothing, container, ID container, and trigger. Trigger is missing. Why is it missing? So you go back over there and add container tag. Okay, so this one was correct. Request, and in the request, okay, and now I'm getting the fire trigger IDs. So this is the piece of information which was missing and which is difficult for you to create a tag without having the trigger ID given to you. And the trigger ID, you can get it by querying the API as well. So just to make it simple here, I'm just going to take this given URL with all the syntax of, let's say, the most complex requests. So in order to, for example, add a container tag, what you need to have is the ID container, the ID container version, the type of tag, the name, of course, of your tag. And this is as well super tricky, is that you need to have parameters, and within parameters, within those brackets, you need to include the name of the type of the tag. So in my case over here, it was a custom HTML tag. And then you need to add over here the fire trigger ID. So those are the two big things to know about how to add a tag. So here in my case, I'm just gonna copy this out. So I'm just gonna show you how it looks like. So here I'm not having any tag at all yet. Just one. If now I copy the following one, so this one should go within the ID number 62, but as well I want to send it within the right container, so that's gonna be another container in my case. That's this one. Okay, oops. So I'm just gonna pick up this. Okay, and I will need as well to know the version of my container. So I'm just gonna go, I can definitely go over here, and the version, add container, get container. Okay, there's no example, so I'm gonna try to get it another way. So I go over here, back, I change the container. Okay, change this. So here, the requested container version does not exist, which I think is normal because I haven't yet added. So if I go over here and I export, let's say, the current draft. Current draft is telling me that the version okay, is not yet here, so I need to use again the API to get it. So I can maybe get container. I guess I'm gonna get the version. So this one, JSON. Okay, so in my case, this one is not the one I'm looking for because in my case, that's the EG something. So let's find the EG something. EG something. Okay, so it's 786. So if I go over here and I say 786, normally it should add a brand new container named of type custom HTML, dummy tag, etc. So here, the trigger at position something something does not exist, which is correct as well, because when I created the trigger, it wasn't it has a new trigger when I created one over here. So now I need as well to export the trigger ID, which I hope I can get easily with probably where I was some minutes ago. So I was, let's say, over here. Let's imagine that I update my given trigger that I just associated. So to set this one, if I just edit it, so I'm gonna go like this. If I just click on it, probably I may be able to get the trigger ID. So let's click. Okay. So ID container, and here. Okay, so there's no trigger ID over here. So I'm just gonna give it a lovely name equal to A. Okay, just gonna refresh that out over here. And the trigger ID here is 226 something. 2260. So oops. Okay. So 2260. And now it works. So sorry for this long tutorial. The idea was to show you that it's possible. So that's the most difficult API request to perform, because you need to have the trigger ID and as well to know the parameter thing. So that's the reason why I leave it to you, this given request, which is kind of the master request, the one who does work. So fire trigger IDs have to be like this, okay, where ID represent the trigger. And then parameter, you need to inform about the type of container, and that's as well typically the kind of thing that you can get through the API.